When I wanted to improve my communication, I did what any individual would do. Go on YouTube and type in, how to be a better speaker. Now loads of videos came up, but one came up by Vinh Giang, and he told me to record myself every single day for 5 minutes. So I did. I adopted his system. His system being record, review, and repeat. Now, it was very good. It got me to establish what I was doing wrong with my communication, but I still wasn't improving. Like, I knew what I was doing wrong now, but I wasn't getting better at doing those things. And that's because Vin left out the most vital component in order to improve in the areas that you want to improve in. And I'm gonna go through that in this video. Number one is recording yourself. Record yourself for 5 minutes a day. Ideally an improv speech, because that is where your true communication will come out. But if you have a public speech coming up, you can use that and do the same system with that. But if it's an improv one, no cheating. You might think, I ain't gonna cheat. Yes, you are. Because when I first started, I thought, oh, what question am I gonna ask myself to answer for 5 minutes? I would think of that question maybe 2 hours before the drill of filming myself on camera or going on a walk and filming myself. And because I was doing that, I was drilling combinations in my head before I even got to filming. It's the same with fighting. When I had sparring on a Tuesday, I would think, what combination should I try out today? I'm gonna try out a 1-2 and a calf kick. I would try that in sparring because I was visualizing things that I'm going to do before I even did it. That's the same with this. So make sure you get a random question. Use ChatGPT if you need to. But if you're using your public speech, use that instead. Taking me on to the next one, review. Now reviewing can go in 3 separate stages. Now this is the bit where Vin has left it out. Now stage number 1 is watching yourself back. Watch it like normal. Listen to yourself speak. And you're gonna be thinking, that's weird. Well, the reason you think it's weird is because your voice is unfamiliar to you. When you hear yourself speak, you hear it through bone conduction and air conduction. But when you listen to yourself speak, you only hear it through air conduction. And for that reason, it sounds weird. When you listen to yourself speak on the phone, it doesn't vibrate through your cheekbones. And that's why it sounds slightly different. The first time I heard myself speak, I was like, Mum, is that me? And she's like, yes, Staff, that's you. I was like, are you sure? That don't sound like me. And it's just because it's unfamiliar. So you've got to get past that barrier. Number 1, just listening. Number 2 is turning the sound off and looking at your body language whilst you're speaking. Are you speaking like this? Do you look timid? If your speech is about something you're really excited about, do you look excited? And number 3 is getting the transcript. With the transcript, you can see if you're using any filler words. Like, you know what I mean? These words are words you can eliminate. And whilst you're looking at yourself back, you want to find one thing that you can improve on for next time. And if you don't know what to improve on, there's a link below and I will give you 30 suggestions over 30 days that you can start being aware of when you are looking at yourself speak, when you are watching the recording back, so you know what to improve on. Now, this is the bit that Vin missed. He's got the record, he's got the review, and before we move on to the repeat, we need to do something very, very important. When I was training in MMA, I would go sparring. And in sparring, sometimes you don't always land the strikes you want to land. One day, I was working and I wasn't really getting my slips very well. And slipping is just defending your jabs and your cross. If someone's punching, it's moving your head to the side. And I realized this wasn't working time and time again. But just trying to do it in sparring, which is basically 100%, it doesn't work. I couldn't get it to work. So I had to go back and isolate this technique. I had to isolate working on slipping at a lower intensity rate at 20% to allow me to get to 50%, then allow me to get to 60, 70, 80, 90, and then eventually I could slip in sparring completely fine. It got to sparring rounds and I was slick, I was smooth. It's only because I spent the weeks leading up to it after I realized isolating this problem by working on drills for that specific problem. And it's the same with communication. When there's an area that you want to improve in, you can't just say, I want to improve in that area and then try for next time. Sometimes it will work, but not all the time. You need to isolate drills to work on that area. Let's do some examples. Let's say you look boring when you speak. You think, there's no real emotion. Okay, you're gonna get a book. You're gonna read that book, and you're gonna read the book as if you're reading it to a child. Because when you read to a child, If you read flat, you had no emotion, you just carried on with a flat face and no tonality, they're not going to be very engaged. But if you start engaging them and changing up your tonality, sometimes you're really happy, sometimes you're sad. You're going to engage the child. What's another drill that you could do? Let's say you always stand like this. Always stand like this. Well, you could get a pen, because when you have something in your hands, it starts to feel a bit more natural. Whereas when you don't, sometimes you stand stiff. And then that is just a progression. That is an isolated drill to help progress you to speaking with no pen in your hand. And then you can move your hands like normal. One more. Let's say you use filler words all the time. You could try and isolate drills answering certain questions without a filler word. Or you could even get a straw. Get a straw, and when you think you're gonna say a filler word, just breathe in, because when you breathe in, you can't say a filler word. And it's only by recording, reviewing, but with that review, you then need to add the new section into the equation, which is isolating these drills to improve upon. No boxer just spars and really excels. Yes, they get better, don't get me wrong, you'll get better by doing this process, but do you want to excel? Because if you want to excel, you're going to isolate the areas, just like a boxer will isolate throwing their jab. A boxer will throw their jab thousands of times a week on the bag to throw it 100 times in sparring. They isolate the technique, keeping their elbow in, keeping their chin down, keeping their hand tight. You need to do the same with your communication. And then, pick one thing. Don't pick 3 things, pick one thing, and use that the next time when you repeat. If it's an improv speech, try and focus on that particular technique. If it is a speech that you have planned, maybe it's a presentation at work, it's a public speech, you're speaking at an event, then watch your speech back, review it, and look for one area to improve in on that speech, and keep doing that process. I do this process when I have keynotes. I will speak on camera, I will watch it. You can't see me here, but I'll be stood up. I'll be stood up doing all the same things that I would be doing on stage. And once I reviewed it, I will pick one area, just one area. You pick 2, 3, 4, 5, it starts getting too much. And the area that you really want to improve in doesn't really improve because you're focusing on other things. You've taken up too much cognitive load, and because of that, you've not focused on the specific area that you want to improve in. But that was the thing that Vin is missing. And if you want some more guidance of things that you can look out for when you are filming, check the first link below. I will give you 30 ways over 30 days to improve your communication. It will also give you some suggestions of what you can focus on when you are watching yourself back. And I'll be honest, I didn't realize I was doing this. I've been isolating drills for over a year now, but it only came apparent to me in the last week, because that's what I've done my whole career in martial arts. I've done an activity, let's say sparring. I reviewed my sparring. I've then isolated drills in the week. I'd stay behind doing footwork drills because I'd trip over my feet too much when I was throwing a 1-2 with speed. And then I'd just try and repeat the process in sparring again. Because you can't always just go 100%. You need to lower the intensity down, lower the stakes down to allow you to perform, focus on the technique alone, and then you can do the process all over again. And that is this video today. That is enough, I think. And even though this process is very important, if your job does rely on communication, you should watch this one. See you later on.